Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. As you all know, I was recently at the Rick Rule conference in Florida. Lots of people from North America over there. So today I've asked Fred Earnest. He is the president and CEO of Vista Gold. Now, Vista Gold is listed on the TSX under TGZ. I think I got that right, Fred. But also they're on the NYSE American under the same ticker code. But they are listed, they're not on the ASX, not yet, but the project is the Mt Todd gold project in the Northern Territory of Australia. They've come out with an announcement today which changes what was originally perceived as a pretty big project, still a big project, ladies and gentlemen, but I've asked Fred to come on and talk to us today about this latest announcement and why this changes everything for Mt Todd and looks to me like this is something that is very palatable and into development and hopefully production in the future. But Fred, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kerry.
Well, Vista Gold, as I said just then, listed on the TSX and the NYSE, but the project is down here in Australia. It's my favorite commodity, Fred. It's gold. Because it's the first time on the program, give us a little brief background, if you like, about Vista Gold.
Yeah, Vista Gold is a company that's been around since the mid 1980s. We started out as a company called Granges in Canada, an explorer, became a producer, had some operating mines in the state of Nevada, and then merged with a company called Decapo Resources in 1996, at which point the company changed its name to Vista Gold Corp. In the late 1990s, we shut down the operating mines that we had. They were open pit, heap leach mines, pretty low grade. And at that point, Rick Rule, who you just went to his conference, came to the management of Vista and said, this is not the time to be a producer. You should be acquiring assets. And so from 2000 through 2006, Vista scoured the world looking for projects that had known resources in safe jurisdictions. And we made a number of acquisitions, growing the resource base of the company from 2 million ounces to over 18 million ounces at an average acquisition cost of about 67 cents an ounce. And then in 2006, Mt Todd was our last acquisition. And subsequent to that, we began an evaluation, a process of trying to monetize different assets. We created a company called Allied Nevada Gold Corp using all of our Nevada assets. And in 2012, we created a company called Midas Gold Corp, which today is known as Perpetua Resources. We worked with them to consolidate that district. We've spun out, or rather sold a couple of projects in Mexico, allowed ourselves to get diluted out of a project in Indonesia that Ulta is now being constructed by an Indonesian mining company. And through this all, we've held on to the Mt Todd project. We've made significant investments in the Mt Todd project. And I believe that it's a completely different project today than what it was when we acquired it. But that's a little of the backstory on Vista Gold and how we got from where we started to where we are today.
That was really interesting. But what's fascinating, because we are going to focus on Mt Todd, why did you hold on to Mt Todd? What was it about this project that kept your attention and made you think we can do something with this? And to us and to my audience, it's all about how do you create shareholder value. So why did you hold on to it?
Yeah, well, when we looked at Mt Todd originally, we felt that Mt Todd failed not because of the deposit, rather that we felt that in hindsight there were some poor decisions that were made with regards to the way the project was originally developed. Those who know a little bit about the project will know that it first started with Zapopan and Billiton operating it as a heap leach project. And the recoveries were just a little over 50%. We today don't understand why that decision was made. We have some theories, but no real answers. Subsequently, Pegasus Gold got involved, their first venture out of North America. And we believe, correctly made the decision to build a mill. Unfortunately, they didn't select the right equipment in the comminution circuit. And so they never met their completion guarantees, and the banks called the loan, and the low gold price. That's what tipped the project over. And so we always felt that the project didn't fail because of the deposit. It failed because of the decisions that were made regarding the project. And we consider ourselves to be, pretty bright group of mining people. I've spent a lot of my career turning around projects that didn't get off to such a good start. And after looking at the project, we felt that there was tremendous potential. Well, we acquired it. We did a little bit of test work analysis. Then we started drilling. And it was very apparent early on that this was not a 3 million ounce deposit, that this was something much bigger. And today it's 10.5 million ounces. And so we kept drilling. We kept our head down and began addressing the what we call the legacy issues, the issues of how do you crush and grind rock in a hard ore body. And we joke amongst ourselves that last we checked, we still call ourselves the hard rock mining industry. And we have the tools, we have the equipment to be able to process rock like we have at Mt Todd. And we think that we've done the amount of test work and with the right companies to actually identify a circuit that will allow us to efficiently crush and grind and ultimately recover the gold from Mt Todd. So its size was obviously a factor. We started seeing that very early on. Second of all, we were confident that we could solve the technical challenges that it kind of plagued Mt Todd. And third, let's be honest. Australia is one of the premier gold mining countries in the world. It's one of the best jurisdictions to have a project. And so we want to be part of that scene. And so that's the reason we've stuck with
it. You just said a moment ago some of the technical challenges. Could you just outline for us what those were and potentially are and how you're changing things to get over that?
Yeah, so most people, when you ask them what they know about Mt Todd, the first thing they say is that the ore body is very hard. Mm-hmm. And some people then bring up that there's copper in the ore body. And those are the two things that were factors within our control that we felt we could address. Obviously, the gold price, when Mt Todd went bankrupt, the gold price was around $280 an ounce. We're looking at over tenfold that today. That's beyond all of our control, but that's a huge advantage to us. The hardness of the ore body is very simple. We've completed hundreds of bond ball mill work index tests. We understand very clearly what the hardness of the ore body is, and it's in the top 10% of hard ore bodies in the world. It's not the hardest. It's not a whole lot harder than perhaps some of the ore that's being processed at Boddington or Detour Lake or some of the other big mines in the world. This isn't new to our industry, but the equipment, the flow sheet that was used when it was in operation previously consisted of a primary gyratory crusher, secondary cone crushers, and then they had vertical shaft impact crushers or Barmac crushers. And that was the bottleneck. That's where the problem was. And that's a crusher that today, I think most people would say it's a very suitable crusher for a pebble crusher in a mill, or maybe for an aggregate type of job, but it's not a mainstay mining crusher. It's not something that we would use in many instances in the industry today. Not quite sure why that equipment was selected, but when Mt Todd shut down, they had 19 of those crushers in operation, and they ended up being very high maintenance, and the wear parts didn't last as long as they had hoped they would. And so as we acquired Mt Todd, the first thing we did was we started looking at, knowing that the gyratory crusher performed reasonably well, we think it maybe was a little undersized. The secondary cone crushers likewise functioned within expectations, but how do you crush it smaller or finer? And we first looked at a SAG mill, and that technology certainly is well established and well proven. It's comes with high operating costs. And so we started at high pressure grinding rolls. And in 2007, there was a lot of talk about high pressure grinding rolls, but there was a lot of anxiety about that particular piece of equipment. We sent, and to date, I believe that we've sent more material to ThyssenKrupp Police's testing facility in Germany than any other mining company. But we've done an immense amount of test work with high pressure grinding rolls. And we're absolutely convinced that this is the right technology. Now, one of the things that helped us was that in 2009, 2010, the Boddington operation came online, the Katy operation came online, and they used exactly the same primary, secondary, third stage crushing circuit that we're proposing for Mt Todd with great success. And with those two mines, all of a sudden, the mindset of the investment community and the industry accepted high pressure grinding rolls.
High pressure grinding, what's it called? High pressure grinding ball?
Roll. Yeah. Okay. Or simply the abbreviation HPGR. And that's what you hear more commonly. It's just HPGR crushers.
Okay.
And anyway, we believe that we've addressed the problem of how to crush the ore. Now, we've gone through several iterations of grinding studies. Originally, we decided that we would have 3 large ball mills and that we would crush or grind in a single stage. Today, our design includes 2 stages of grinding. We use the HPGR crusher to crush to a little bit smaller size and then cyclone that material. Crush it. The coarse fraction is crushed in a regular ball mill crusher, ball mill. And then the second, the fine grinding stage is using a vertical stirred media mill, like a Vertimill or VXP or FL Smith's VXP mill. They're very similar. And that allows us to grind this material down to 40 microns. So we grind it quite fine. And that allows us to achieve a recovery of close to 90%. So we've spent an immense amount of time addressing how to grind the rock. Now, along the way, we've kind of taken a little diversion, and we did a bunch of test work with Tomra Sorting Solutions and Steiner.
Yeah,
probably the 2 world leaders in sorting technology, and we've determined that we can get rid of somewhere between 8 and 10% of the run-of-mine material as clean waste. Now, there's a little bit of a gold loss, somewhere between 1.5% and 2%, but that material goes out to the reject pile at a grade of somewhere around 0.1 to 0.15 grams per ton, well below the break-even cutoff. And so we're getting rid of a certain amount of material that doesn't have value for us, and it actually ends up being the harder fraction. We scalp it off of the third stage crushers, the HPGR crushers, and before it gets recirculated, we sort it, and the material that doesn't have any quartz veining or sulfide veining gets rejected, and it tends to have a bond ball mill work index that's about 10% harder than the rest of the ore body. And so we're throwing away a little bit of the really hard rock. And so we're able to optimize the efficiency of the grinding circuit by putting the energy into grinding rock that has more value in it. So those are some of the changes that we've made in the flow sheet to get to the point that we feel very comfortable saying that we have a flow sheet that will operate and actually process the rock that we have at Mt Todd. The other technical factor is the ore body itself, and that's the copper mineralization. The pre-operators dealt with a style of mineralization that had a couple of copper minerals, bornite and chalcocite, which are known cyanide consumers. And so they dealt with the challenge of having high cyanide consumption. As the result of the drilling that we've done, and I think it's fair to point out that the original drilling was typically not much deeper than 100 meters. We've now drilled to have the deposit drilled out to 600 meters in depth. That there's a phase change in the sulfide mineralization, varies between 10 and 40 meters below the bottom of the pit, that those cyanide consuming sulfide minerals, bornite and chalcocite, changed to chalcopyrite. And the difference between them isn't so much in the grade of the copper, but rather it's in the way that it's chemically bound. And chalcocite does not react with cyanide.
Right.
And so you have a style of mineralization that for 94, 95% of the deposit is not going to require any sort of special handling. We've got this 5 to 6% that we're going to stockpile and blend in over a period of time to minimize its impact on the cyanide consumptions. But this just comes with learning more about the deposit. The original drilling was RC drilling. We've drilled exclusively core. We've drilled over 70,000 meters. There's just been a tremendous increase in the understanding of the ore body, which has allowed us to make better decisions about the process itself.
Well, speaking of the process, because there are those out there that say this will never get into production. It's been around a long time. Others have had a go at it. How come these guys have suddenly got it? Now, you've explained some of it, but today's announcement that I want to talk about as well has taken you from a much larger project to you guys saying, well, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to bring down the capex because we're going to bring down the amount of ore that we're going to treat, et cetera, et cetera. So talk to us about the rationale between going from a sort of a 1 billion capex down to, I think it's about 400 mil. And I want to understand how that impacts after-tax cash flow, potentially the all-in sustaining cost. Like, talk to us about the numbers and why this makes more sense.
Yeah. We originally designed Mt Todd as a 50,000 ton per day operation, or 17.5 million tons per annum. And that was entirely driven by the size of the deposit. This was a very large deposit. It seemed to fit in the Boddington, Detour Lake, Cadia sort of model of scale of project and what you would typically think about how to develop it. Our first feasibility study was published, or pre-feasibility study rather, was published in 2013. And the timing was awful.
Yeah.
Within weeks of the time we published the study, the price had gone from $1,600 an ounce to $1,050.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that first go, we basically put the project on the shelf and stepped back and had a long think about it because the economics didn't work out.
Right.
And that led us to the sorting and the fine grinding that we've already talked about. And then as the gold price started coming back up, we started looking at it. We improved the recovery. We went from 81.7% recovery to 91% recovery by implementing fine grinding and sorting. And so that was a tremendous step forward. We thought that the project would be very attractive to a senior producer in a partnering type of arrangement. And for a multitude of different reasons, that never materialized, from the seniors being more interested in projects that they already had in-house to toward the end in 2022, we published a feasibility study and immediately found ourselves confronted with inflationary concerns and nobody knowing exactly where prices were going to end up, how much they were going to increase. We updated that feasibility study in 2024 and found ourselves in a market where the gold price had increased substantially. And all of a sudden, producers were no longer interested in acquiring developing assets as they were interested in acquiring producing assets. And so that's led us to reevaluate and say, if we're not going to get a partnering deal with a senior producer that can write the kind of checks we're looking for to build $1 billion project, how do we do this on a scale that we could either build it ourselves or partner with a smaller company? And so that led us to look at a variety of different size projects. And ultimately, we settled on 15,000 tons a day, 5.3 million tons per annum, and began doing some desktop work on what that would look like. from a capital cost and operating cost point of view. At a larger scale, I think it's important to note that we felt and we had a lot of discussions with the Northern Territory government that we could attract a workforce to the Northern Territory and build a community-based project. Today, the project is going to be predominantly a typical fly-in, fly-out style of operation, and that's impacted the capital costs a little bit in that we now have a camp contemplated as part of the project. We have a wonderful resort. I'm almost tempted to call it a resort, not a camp, but on the backside of the predominant geographic feature that's known as Mt Todd, we have a freshwater storage reservoir that has barramundi in it. And we're going to build the camp right on the shores of that reservoir. And I don't know, stocking it may become part of the amenities of the camp, and people being able to go fish for barramundi in the evenings. I don't know.
Yeah, that's all very, very good. But I want to get into the guts of how you're going to make this happen. Because again, as I said before, there are people out there saying it's been tried and done before and no one else has made it work. I understand that this announcement today says, instead of eating the whole gorilla, we're just going to take a smaller bite, if you like. How are you going to fund this?
Yeah, so we've already been in conversations with a number of the banks and lending institutions in Australia. The Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund has expressed an interest in being part of the funding package for the Mt Todd project. Many will know that a year and a half ago, we entered into a royalty agreement with Wheaton Precious Metals. They have a 1% royalty on the Mt Todd project. That's not their bread and butter business. They're a streaming company, and they entered into that royalty agreement so that they would have their foot in the door and have a first right of refusal on any potential streaming opportunities. And so we expect that there will be an opportunity to work with Wheaton on some sort of streaming arrangement, and between the conventional debt financing, including the Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund, Wheaton Precious Metals, and then we've got a component that we would need to deal with from an equity point of view. We believe that there's a pathway to having the financing for Mt Todd. Now, there are some of our shareholders who would like to see us do a transaction, and whether that's at the corporate level or at the project level, and that's on the table as well. And so whether we pursue this ourselves or whether we pursue a transaction with a company, either it could be a joint venture, it could be an outright sale of the project or the company. Those are all things that we've now got to busy ourselves on and sort out in the coming months. But certainly at a capex of $425 million, that's a lot more manageable than what it was before. And so we're confident that should the decision be made to build a team, and certainly that will be the next management challenge for us, will be to put together the development team. That will be a very important phase in the development of the project. Right now, we have a team that's at a corporate level, a very small team, very good at managing studies, and we've got the experience in building mines, but we've not done it in a little while. But we've got to bring in the team of the construction managers, the developers, and Australians who can believe in Mt Todd and who can take the reins locally and move the project forward.
But you don't. That will be sorry to interrupt you. You don't want to bring those in too early as well, because this is. I always say to people, mining is like a logistics operation. Everything's got to come in at the right moment in time, because you don't want to waste shareholder funds bringing things in too early or too late, if you like.
That's exactly right. And so there's some very important decisions that will be made in the next 6 months.
Okay.
depending on what we see developing in the next 8 to 12 weeks, and then we'll make decisions. And there's you'll appreciate, Kerry. There's been a lot of thought put into exactly how this plays out if we choose door A, B, C, or D. And each one of those doors comes with its own challenges and own opportunities. And I think that this is a very exciting point because we actually have a product now that I think that the market can get its head around and say, there actually is a path forward to developing Mt Todd.
And I think that's the thing that I want our audience to understand. And if you could simplify this for me in like less than a minute, what you see as the path forward for Mt Todd, because as I said before, it's had its challenges. Simplify it for our audience and say, this is where you believe the path forward is, and I guess why.
Yeah, certainly. I believe the path forward is, we've identified the size of the project. We've right-sized the project. We've put aside the notions that this has got to be built to some sort of a North American standard. We've used an outstanding team of Australian engineers. GR Engineering Services has been the lead consultant. They've got tremendous experience in building and delivering this scale of gold projects in Western Australia. And we've been talking about financing. I don't think that that's near the obstacle that it was a year ago.
Okay.
And so I think we've right-sized the project. We've used the team of people who we already have confidence in that could be the EPC contractors and build it. And we have a very supportive Northern Territory government who would love to see the Mt Todd project get built. I think that all of the key building blocks have already been laid to be able to move the project forward.
All right. So I think there's a lot of news flow that's going to start to happen, as you said, over the next sort of 8 to 12 weeks. There's a lot of decision making that's got to come forward at the moment. Right environment. If the gold price was to pull back a few $100s, does that impact you, or is it so strong now that it's a little pullback in the gold price is not going to affect it?
We've always been pretty conservative in the way we view the gold price. We completed our study at a gold price of $2,500 US.
Okay.
It's $800 below the present gold price. It has at that gold price, it has an IRR of 27.8% and an NPV5 of 1.1 billion. That 1.1 is 2.3 times the initial capex of the project. If we use spot price $3,300, that's the NPV of 2.2 billion and an IRR of almost 45%. Okay. If we pull back at $100, doesn't affect our outlook on the project at all. We've already used a price that I think is quite conservative, and that reflects the belief that we have in the project that this is a project that today can be built.
All right, it's a project that today can be built. We're going to make sure Fred comes on a regular basis to give us updates, especially, ladies and gentlemen, as he said, it's a really key time, but they've made a positive step in turning this around and saying, do you know what? We don't have to eat the whole gorilla. Let's make it so that I guess the cash flow will start, and that it's a development project that you can see, I guess, how to bring it into production, if you like, either with or without a partner. Now, Fred, we've spoken for a little while. There's so much that I'd like to get through as well, but if you could just wrap it up in a bow for our audience and give us 3 reasons that you think they should be sitting up and taking notice of you at Mt Todd right now.
Yeah, the big elephant in the room has always been the capex of the project.
Yeah,
we achieved a 59% reduction in capex. Another nick on the project has been that it's been low grade. Well, we've got such a large deposit that we've got the luxury of, we've raised the cutoff grade. We've raised it from 0.35 grams per ton to 0.5 gram per ton. That's allowed us to generate a 5 million ounce reserve at a life of mine average grade of 0.97 grams per ton. The first half of the project will have a grade of material to the plant of 1.04 grams per ton. I think we're in a range where it's a little bit harder to say this is a low grade project. And third is that we enjoy great support in the Northern Territory, and I think that if there's a time, with the gold price, the support of the Northern Territory, the support of the local people, I think that that the social license is in place. We've not talked about permitting, but
No, we haven't.
All of the major permits for a 50,000 ton per day operation are in place. We expect that there will be some modifications that need to take place to build a smaller project. We think that that's something that can be accomplished in 12 to 18 months. We have an outstanding relationship with the Jawoyn Aboriginal people who own the surface land in the area of the project. The social license is firmly in place. I believe that the technical aspects, the price, gold price we have today, the social license, that we find ourselves at a point where the three rivers have come together and the water is starting to flow faster. So I think it's a great time thinking about Mt Todd.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The three rivers have come together for three reasons. As Fred just said, the CapEx has been reduced by 59%. The grade is looking a bit better. And as he said, you've got the permitting is mainly in place, or have you still got a couple to?
No, our EIS is approved. Our federal environmental authorization is approved. The mining management plan has been approved. Our agreements are in place with the Jawoyn. I meet with the board of directors on a quarterly basis. We have an outstanding relationship with them.
All right. Well,
I think close to shovel ready as possible.
Close to shovel ready as possible. It's been a very interesting first chat. I'm sure we'll speak again, Fred. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, Vista Gold, Mt Todd Gold Project, Northern Territory, listed on the TSX. Who knows? Maybe they'll list on the ASX sometime in the future. But it is so easy to invest these days. Not financial advice. Do your own homework, ladies and gentlemen. But it's been a fascinating chat with you today, Fred. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. All the best.